Fix this, and I'll give you $100 million, billionaire CEO sneered. Maid's daughter did. He froze in shock. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's dive into the story. In a world filled with untold riches and power, there are those who believe their wealth can buy them anything, including respect and control over others. Harrison Thorne was one of these men. The billionaire CEO of a tech empire, Harrison had spent his life building a multi-billion-dollar company that dominated the market. He lived in a mansion that could easily be mistaken for a palace. His every whim catered to by a staff that was both unseen and unheard, except when they were needed to serve his desires. But in this world of luxury, one small voice would challenge everything. It was a usual day at Thorne Industries' sprawling innovation lab, where the future of technology was being created. The lab was filled with the world's brightest minds, working tirelessly on cutting-edge projects. However, one project had stalled, a new type of energy-efficient engine that was supposed to change the way cities powered themselves. For 6 weeks, a team of engineers had worked day and night, only to watch the machine fail every time it was tested. They had tried everything, rewriting code, replacing faulty wires, even bringing in a physicist from Switzerland. But no matter what they did, the machine would run for exactly 90 seconds before shutting down. Harrison had had enough. Standing in the middle of the lab, his eyes blazing with frustration, he turned to the engineers. "You've had 6 weeks," he sneered. $20 million in overtime, and still nothing. Are you geniuses, or just a bunch of overpaid failures? The engineers stood in stunned silence, their faces pale and ashamed. Harrison's voice grew colder, more cutting. "Maybe I need to bring in someone who can actually fix this." His eyes scanned the room, landing on one of the cleaning staff, Amelia Hayes, a quiet woman who had been sweeping the floor in the corner, trying to blend into the background. She had been working at Thorne Industries for the past 2 years, keeping the lab spotless while being invisible to everyone, including the people she cleaned for. "You," Harrison said, pointing at her with an air of mockery. "Maybe you can fix this. After all, you've been here long enough to see how it's done. Fix this, and I'll give you $100 million. The room went silent. Amelia stood frozen, her heart racing. She had never been part of the conversation in this lab before. No one had ever taken the time to look at her or acknowledge her presence. To them, she was invisible. Now, the billionaire had made a joke of her, daring her to do the impossible. She felt a surge of humiliation and fear. But in that moment, something changed. Amelia's young daughter, Lily, was sitting nearby, her head down as she quietly observed the situation. Amelia had always tried to shield her daughter from the harshness of the world they lived in, but today was different. Lily's small voice broke the silence. "My mommy can't, but I can." The words hung in the air, unexpected and powerful. Everyone turned to look at Lily, the maid's daughter, standing with a quiet confidence in the middle of a room full of world-renowned engineers and a billionaire CEO. Harrison's smirk faltered for a split second, and the engineers exchanged puzzled glances. Lily's voice was calm, but there was something in the way she spoke that made everyone stop and listen. She wasn't afraid. She wasn't intimidated. In fact, she had already figured out what the machine needed. As the seconds ticked by, a strange silence filled the room. No one knew what to expect next. But one thing was certain. This was going to be a moment no one would forget. As the tension in the room grew, all eyes were now on Lily, the young maid's daughter who had dared to speak up. The engineers stood frozen, still processing the audacity of a child challenging a billionaire CEO. Harrison Thorne, the man who had built an empire on his intelligence and power, now found himself facing an entirely new kind of challenge. His initial shock quickly turned to disdain as he glanced over Lily, a child no older than 10, standing confidently in the center of the room. She was so small compared to the towering machines and complex gadgets around her. Yet there was something about the way she stood that made everyone pause. "You think you can fix this?" Harrison sneered, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "You're just a kid. What could you possibly know about engineering?" Lily didn't flinch. She looked him squarely in the eye, unbothered by the insult. "I know how to fix it," she said, her voice steady and calm. "And I will." A murmur of disbelief ran through the room. The engineers exchanged looks, unsure of what to make of this bold declaration. After all, they had tried everything. Top scientists, engineers, and even a physicist from Switzerland had been unable to fix the issue. It was a problem that had stumped the world's brightest minds for weeks. And yet, here was a child claiming to have the answer. Harrison was used to being in control, to being the one who decided what happened in his lab. But Lily's quiet confidence, her refusal to be intimidated, rattled him. He turned to his engineers, shaking his head as if to dismiss the idea. "Fine," he said, "prove it. Show us what you can do." He gestured toward the malfunctioning machine that had been the source of so much frustration. The room fell silent as Lily approached the machine. She didn't hesitate. Her small fingers traced the wires, the sensors, and the components of the device, moving with an expertise that surprised everyone in the room. It was clear she wasn't just guessing. She was studying, analyzing, and understanding the problem. For a moment, it seemed as though time had slowed. Harrison's eyes were fixed on Lily, and the engineers held their breath, waiting for something to happen. After what felt like an eternity, Lily turned to Harrison. "The problem is in the resonance frequency," she explained. "It's too high, causing the system to break down. I can recalibrate the circuit and fix it." Harrison raised an eyebrow, skeptical but intrigued. "And how exactly do you plan on doing that?" Lily didn't answer immediately. Instead, she pulled out a small tool from her pocket, one that looked as though it belonged to a child's playset rather than a professional engineer's toolbox. But as she worked, carefully adjusting the components, it became clear that this was no ordinary child. Her precision, her focus, and her calm demeanor spoke volumes. The engineers exchanged uncertain glances. They had never seen anything like this before. Lily, the maid's daughter, was doing what they couldn't. Harrison crossed his arms and watched, still unsure of what to think. As Lily continued to work, the machine suddenly hummed to life. The lights that had previously blinked in error now stabilized, and the engine that had been nothing more than a glorified paperweight for weeks began to run smoothly. The engineers gasped. The machine was working. And not just working, it was performing flawlessly. Harrison stood there in stunned silence, his face frozen in disbelief. He had expected this to be another failure, another dead end. But Lily had proven him wrong. She had done what the best minds in the world couldn't. The machine that had cost millions of dollars, that had been the centerpiece of his company's future, was now functioning perfectly, thanks to the young girl who had been dismissed as insignificant. For a long moment, no one spoke. The room was filled with the sound of the humming machine, a sound that represented more than just success. It represented a challenge to the status quo, to the idea that money and power were the ultimate determinants of worth. Harrison was the first to break the silence. I don't believe it," he said, his voice barely a whisper. He looked at Lily, who stood there, her expression as calm as ever, her hands still working on the machine. "How did you know?" he asked, his voice tinged with awe. Lily looked up at him, a small smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "I just listened," she said. "Sometimes the answer is there if you're willing to hear it." Harrison's jaw tightened. The smug, arrogant CEO who had once looked down on everyone in this room now stood humbled by a child. For the first time, he understood the true meaning of respect. He had underestimated Lily, and in doing so, had learned a valuable lesson. Power and wealth were not the only things that mattered. Intelligence, resourcefulness, and perseverance came in all forms, even in the smallest of packages. The room was still silent, but for the first time that day, the atmosphere had shifted. The engineers now looked at Lily not with pity, but with admiration. Harrison's gaze softened, and he nodded slowly. "You've earned more than just my respect," he said quietly. "You've earned a place in this company. From now on, you're a part of the team." Lily didn't say anything. She didn't need to. She had already proved herself, and now, for the first time, she stood in a room where her voice was heard, and her talent was recognized. The world had underestimated her, but now, they would have no choice but to see her for who she truly was. The hum of the machine filled the room, and the engineers, once skeptical, now looked at Lily with awe. She had not only solved the problem that had baffled them for weeks, but she had done so with such grace and precision that they could not help but feel a deep respect for her. Harrison Thorne, the billionaire CEO who had once mocked her, now stood quietly in the corner, his expression unreadable. His initial disbelief had slowly shifted to admiration, though he was still processing the events that had just unfolded. Incredible, one of the engineers finally muttered, breaking the silence. How did you even think of that? Lily, still focused on the machine, didn't immediately respond. She simply adjusted the final component, tightened a screw, and stepped back. I just listened to the machine, she said quietly. It told me what was wrong. The room fell silent again, but this time, there was no mockery, no disbelief. Only admiration. Harrison took a deep breath, slowly approaching Lily. You've just saved my company, he said, his voice softer than before. I didn't expect this. I didn't expect you to be able to do it. But you did. Lily looked up at him, her expression calm. She had always known what she was capable of. It was the world around her that needed to catch up. I've been listening to machines for years, she said. I'm just good at understanding them. I guess it's a gift. Harrison nodded slowly, his mind racing. He had spent years building his empire, believing that the value of a person was determined by their wealth, their title, or their education. But Lily had just proven him wrong. She had shown him that there was value in every person, no matter their background or their social status. He had always prided himself on his sharp instincts, but now he realized that he had misjudged this young girl, underestimated her abilities. I want to make things right, Harrison said. I want you to have a place here, at Thorne Industries. Not just as a maid's daughter, but as someone who belongs. Lily smiled softly, but she didn't speak. She had never been interested in titles or recognition. All she had ever wanted was to prove herself, to show the world that her value wasn't determined by her circumstances, but by her abilities. The engineers who had once doubted her now stood in a line, offering her their respect. Some of them, who had initially scoffed at the idea of a child solving their problem, now looked at her with genuine admiration. One of them, a woman in her 30s named Clara, stepped forward. You've earned this, she said, her voice full of sincerity. You've shown us all what it means to truly understand something, to really listen. Lily nodded, feeling a quiet sense of pride. But she knew that her journey was far from over. This was just the beginning. Harrison, still processing everything, turned to face the team of engineers. We need to reframe how we view talent, he said, his voice firm. From now on, everyone in this company will be treated with respect, no matter where they come from or what they've done before. We need more people like Lily. People who think outside the box, who listen, who aren't afraid to stand up and show what they're worth. The engineers nodded in agreement, their faces a mix of surprise and respect. Harrison turned back to Lily, a smile finally breaking through his usually stern expression. You've changed everything, he said. You've changed me. Thank you. Lily smiled back, her heart swelling with pride. She had done what everyone thought was impossible, and in doing so, had proven not only her worth but the value of every overlooked person in the room. As she left the lab, walking with her head held high, she knew that this was just the beginning of something bigger. She had not only fixed a machine, but she had shattered the expectations placed upon her. And in the process, she had shown the world that sometimes, the most unexpected people can make the biggest difference. Ivy, one of the senior engineers, looked at Lily with a sense of awe that was almost tangible. She had witnessed the impossible unfold before her eyes, and now, as the hum of the machine finally faded, it felt like the world had shifted. It wasn't just the machine that had been fixed, it was the perception of what was possible. In the days that followed, Lily became a subject of intense curiosity. She was no longer just a maid's daughter. She was now a symbol of the kind of brilliance that often goes unnoticed. Thorne Industries had begun to change in small, yet significant ways. Harrison Thorne, the man who had once dismissed her as just another member of the cleaning staff, now looked at her as though she were the missing piece of his empire. No longer the arrogant billionaire who thought he had all the answers, he had been forced to confront the fact that the real power of innovation wasn't just in money or education. It was in the ability to see the world differently, to listen, and to solve problems others couldn't. Harrison had personally invited Lily to the boardroom meeting the following week, where he officially recognized her not only for fixing the engine, but for the fresh perspective she had brought to the company. From this day forward, he said, addressing the gathered executives and engineers, Lily will be a part of this company, not just as a contributor, but as someone we can learn from. Her insight, her ability to hear the things we overlooked, is invaluable. The room was silent for a moment, and then Ivy spoke up. She's right, Harrison, she said, gesturing to Lily. She's shown us all that it's not always about having the highest degree or the best education. It's about understanding the problem from a different angle. She has something none of us had, and it's changed everything. The room erupted in murmurs of agreement, and Lily felt a flush of pride, but also an overwhelming sense of responsibility. She wasn't just working for herself anymore. She was setting a precedent, proving that talent could come from the most unexpected places. As the days passed, Lily's role within Thorn Industries grew. Harrison made sure to include her in meetings with engineers, giving her the space to speak up, to share her ideas. And she did. She spoke not only about technology, but about the importance of looking beyond the obvious, of questioning the status quo, of listening to the quiet voices that often go unheard. It wasn't long before she became a trusted advisor. But Lily's success wasn't without its challenges. Some of the engineers were slow to accept her. They still saw her as the maid's daughter, not a peer. But with every challenge, Lily proved herself, not by standing up to them directly, but by quietly showing that her ideas worked. One particular moment stood out. A few months after Lily had joined Thorn Industries, an issue arose with a new project. The team had worked for weeks on a revolutionary new battery system, but something was off. The energy output was lower than expected, and the team couldn't figure out why. Lily, sitting quietly in the back of the room during a meeting, asked a simple question. Have you checked the material source? The cells might not be reacting as expected. The engineers, who had spent days combing through the circuit design and the power grid integration, were surprised. No one had thought to check the source materials. The team tested Lily's hypothesis, and sure enough, the materials were subpar. The project was saved, and the engineers, once doubtful of Lily's ability, now saw her as an indispensable part of the team. I told you she had it in her, Ivy said, giving Lily a knowing smile. For Lily, it wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about showing them that true innovation wasn't about who you were, where you came from, or what title you held. It was about what you could offer. And Lily had so much more to offer than anyone had ever given her credit for. As time passed, Thorn Industries began to change in ways no one had anticipated. The company that had once been known for its rigid hierarchy and cold professionalism was now embracing a new ethos, one that valued insight, innovation, and, most importantly, the contributions of everyone, no matter their background. Lily had become an unexpected symbol of this transformation. Her presence was no longer just tolerated, it was celebrated. The engineers, once hesitant to take her seriously, now sought her input on every new project. They had witnessed firsthand how her unique perspective had not only solved complex problems, but had also opened their eyes to the importance of diversity in thought and experience. Harrison Thorn, too, had changed. The man who had once looked down on those he considered beneath him now actively sought out those with different backgrounds and skill sets. He had learned the hard way that innovation didn't just come from the best schools or the most prestigious positions. It came from the willingness to listen, to understand, and to empower others. One day, during a routine meeting, Harrison called Lily into his office. Lily, you've done more than just help fix a machine, he said, leaning back in his chair, a rare look of genuine respect on his face. You've changed the way we operate here. You've shown us that we've been looking at the wrong things. Lily, ever humble, simply nodded. She wasn't in this for recognition. Her goal had always been to make a difference, not to be celebrated. But it was hard to ignore the change in the air, the way people now treated her with respect instead of skepticism. We have a new project, Harrison continued. A huge one, and I want you to lead it. Lily's eyes widened in surprise. She had always contributed, always shared her ideas, but to be asked to lead? That was something entirely different. Lead it? She asked, trying to mask the disbelief in her voice. Yes, Harrison said firmly. I know it's a big step, but I trust you. You've already proven what you're capable of. In this project, it's going to need someone who can think outside the box. Someone who's not afraid to break the rules and challenge the norm. The project was ambitious, a new form of sustainable energy that could power entire cities with minimal environmental impact. It was the kind of project that could change the world, and Harrison had no doubt that Lily was the right person to lead it. But the road ahead was not going to be easy. While most of the team had come to accept Lily, there were still those who doubted her abilities. There were whispers in the hallways, behind closed doors, questioning whether a girl with no formal education could truly handle such a monumental task. "She's just a maid's daughter," they would say. "How could she possibly know more than the rest of us?" But Lily didn't let the whispers get to her. She had learned to block out the noise, to focus on the task at hand. And this task was more important than anything she had ever done before. The first few weeks were tough. The project was filled with obstacles, technical challenges, financial constraints, and opposition from some of the more traditional engineers. But Lily wasn't deterred. She tackled each problem head-on, bringing fresh ideas and innovative solutions to the table. Slowly but surely, the project began to take shape. As the weeks turned into months, Lily's confidence grew. She was no longer the quiet maid's daughter in the corner. She was the leader of a groundbreaking project, a woman who had earned the respect of the most powerful people in the room. And with each step forward, she proved, not only to her colleagues but to herself, that she was capable of greatness. But the true test came when the project hit a major roadblock. The technology was failing, and the team was about to give up. The pressure was immense, but Lily refused to quit. She spent sleepless nights working with the engineers, analyzing every detail, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. And then, one morning, it happened. The breakthrough. The technology worked. The new energy system was a success. It wasn't just a victory for Lily. It was a victory for everyone who had ever been overlooked, underestimated, or dismissed. Harrison Thorne, standing at the front of the room, looked at Lily with a mix of admiration and gratitude. "You did it," he said. "You proved us all wrong. You've changed everything." The room erupted in applause, but Lily wasn't interested in the applause. She had already accomplished what she set out to do. She had shown the world that talent, vision, and innovation could come from anywhere. And in that moment, she knew that her journey was only just beginning. The months that followed were both thrilling and challenging for Lily. Her groundbreaking work on the new energy project had earned her not just respect, but admiration across Thorne Industries. She was now regarded as a leader, someone with a unique ability to see solutions where others saw only problems. Harrison Thorne, once the skeptical CEO who had mocked her, had become one of her biggest supporters. He recognized her brilliance and relied on her judgment more than ever before. But even with all the success, Lily knew that true innovation was never without its hurdles. The pressure to maintain this success weighed heavily on her, especially as she led her team toward the final stages of the project. She spent countless late nights in the lab, poring over data and making adjustments to the system. As the project neared completion, there were still some who doubted whether it would truly work on a large scale. The team faced mounting financial pressures, and some investors were growing impatient. "We need results," Lily, one of the lead investors, said during a meeting. "This has gone on long enough. If you can't deliver, we'll have to pull out." Lily felt the weight of their words, but she wasn't about to back down. She had spent her whole life proving herself, and this was no different. "We're almost there," she said, her voice steady despite the anxiety building inside her. "Just a little more time." The next few days were crucial. Everything depended on a final test of the energy system. If it worked, it would change the world, revolutionizing how energy was produced and consumed. If it failed, it could set them all back years. The lab buzzed with activity as the engineers and scientists scrambled to prepare the system for the test. There was no room for error. Lily walked around the lab, making sure everything was in place, her mind racing through the final adjustments. Harrison watched her from a distance, impressed by her calm under pressure. He had seen her lead before, but this was different. This was the moment that would define everything she had worked for. As the test began, there was an almost surreal quiet in the room. Everyone was holding their breath, waiting for the moment of truth. Lily stood beside the machine, her hand resting lightly on the control panel. The data began streaming in. At first, everything seemed to be working as expected. The system was running smoothly. But then, a small error message flashed on the screen. It was a minor glitch, but in this moment, even the smallest mistake could be catastrophic. Lily's heart raced, but she didn't panic. She studied the data, quickly isolating the issue. It was a minor issue with the calibration of the energy flow, something that could easily be fixed. Adjust the flow by 0.2%, Lily said, her voice calm but firm. The engineers worked quickly, following her instructions to the letter. The glitch was corrected within minutes. The system hummed to life, its energy output increasing steadily, exceeding all expectations. The room erupted in cheers as the system stabilized. The test was a success. For Lily, it wasn't just about proving the system worked. It was about proving to everyone, including herself, that she had what it took to lead the future of innovation. Harrison stepped forward, a rare look of genuine pride on his face. "You did it, Lily," he said, his voice filled with admiration. "You've changed the world." Lily looked around at the team, their faces beaming with pride. She knew that this success wasn't just hers, it was theirs. Together, they had created something that would leave a lasting legacy. But as she looked at the machine, humming away, she knew this was just the beginning. There was so much more to do, so many more problems to solve. And for Lily, that was what made the journey worthwhile. She had proven that anything was possible, as long as you were willing to listen, learn, and never give up. The success of the energy system project spread like wildfire throughout Thorne Industries. Lily's name became synonymous with innovation, not just within the company, but across the industry. People were beginning to understand what Harrison Thorne had known all along. Lily had the potential to reshape the future. Her leadership, her unyielding drive, and her natural talent for solving complex problems had proven invaluable. Yet, with the newfound recognition came challenges that no one had warned her about. It wasn't long before Lily started to feel the weight of her success. As her role within Thorne Industries expanded, so did the expectations. She was no longer just solving technical problems. She was shaping the direction of the company, leading multi-million-dollar projects, and making decisions that impacted the future of energy worldwide. The pressure was constant, the stakes were higher, and the room for error was smaller than ever before. Some of the old engineers who had once doubted her were now looking to her for answers, relying on her intuition and judgment. While most of them had come to respect her, there were still some who found it difficult to let go of their preconceived notions. There were moments when Lily overheard quiet whispers in the halls, doubts that lingered just below the surface. "She's just a kid. What does she really know about running a company?" one engineer had said. Lily didn't let it get to her. She had learned long ago not to let others' doubts define her. But that didn't mean it didn't hurt. Every day, she worked tirelessly to prove that her success was no fluke. She wasn't just a product of her circumstances. She was someone who had earned every bit of her place in this world. But the more Lily pushed herself, the more she realized how much she missed the simplicity of the past, the days when she was just solving problems for the sake of solving them, not worrying about the politics and power struggles of running a massive corporation. One evening, as she sat alone in her office after a long day, reviewing blueprints and checking the progress of the next big project, she felt the weight of exhaustion settle in. Her phone buzzed, and she glanced down to see a message from Harrison. "Let's have a chat tomorrow. I have something I want to discuss." Lily's heart skipped a beat. Harrison had always been straightforward, but the tone of the message made her wonder if something was wrong. The next day, they met in his office. As Lily walked in, she could feel the tension in the air. Harrison looked at her with a seriousness she hadn't seen before. "Lily," he began, "I've been thinking about the future of Thorne Industries, and I want to be sure we're not making the same mistakes we've made in the past. We've come so far, but I think we need to take a step back and focus on what really matters." Lily listened intently, waiting for him to continue. "You've changed everything here," he said, his tone softening. "But I can see that the pressure is starting to get to you. We need to find a balance. Your work is amazing, but I want to make sure you're not burning out." Lily was taken aback. No one had ever said anything like that to her before. She had always prided herself on pushing through, on proving that she could handle anything thrown her way. "I'm fine," she replied, though even as she said the words, she wasn't sure she believed them. Harrison smiled faintly. "I know you are. But that's not the point. The point is, I don't want you to lose yourself in the process. You've already proven what you're capable of, but you need to take care of yourself too." It was a reminder that she wasn't just a machine designed to fix problems. She was a person, and even the most brilliant minds needed time to rest and recharge. I want you to take some time off, Harrison said. Go on a break. Spend time with your family. Reconnect with what matters most. You've earned it. At first, Lily resisted. She didn't want to seem weak or incapable of handling her responsibilities. But after a moment of reflection, she realized he was right. She had been running at full speed for so long, never stopping to check if she was still on the right track. Maybe this break was exactly what she needed. Okay, she said, her voice softer than usual. I'll take some time off. As she left the meeting, Lily felt a strange sense of relief. It wasn't that she didn't love her work. It was her passion, her purpose. But for the first time in a long while, she realized that even the greatest leaders needed to step back, take a breath, and regroup. She didn't have to do everything alone, and she didn't have to be perfect. Sometimes, the best thing you can do is take a step back and trust that you've already proven enough. After taking a much-needed break, Lily returned to Thorn Industries with a renewed sense of purpose. The time away had done wonders for her, allowing her to reconnect with her family and reflect on the journey she had undertaken. She had proven herself in ways no one, not even Harrison Thorn, could have predicted. But now, as she walked back into the office, she was ready to face the challenges ahead with a clear mind and a strengthened resolve. The first few days back were busy, filled with meetings and updates on ongoing projects. But Lily had a new perspective. She no longer felt the same pressure to constantly prove herself. She had already done that. Instead, she focused on leading with confidence, knowing that her ideas were valuable and that she had earned her place in the company. Harrison, too, had changed. He no longer saw Lily as just a brilliant engineer. He saw her as an equal, someone he could rely on for guidance and insight. They had become partners, working together to shape the future of Thorn Industries. One day, during a brainstorming session, Harrison looked at Lily and smiled. "You've really transformed this company," he said, his tone sincere. "It's not just the technology you've brought in, it's the culture. You've made people see that innovation comes from everywhere, not just the top floors." Lily smiled back, but inside, she couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. She had come so far from the quiet girl who used to sit in the corner, ignored and dismissed. Now, she was shaping the company's future, and it was a future built on the belief that anyone, no matter their background, could make a difference. As the company continued to grow, so did Lily's influence. She started mentoring younger engineers, showing them that there was more to innovation than just numbers and formulas. She taught them to listen, to question, and to never stop learning. Her impact went beyond just the technical side of things. It was about changing the way people thought and worked together. But with success came new challenges. Not everyone was happy with the changes Lily had brought. There were still those who clung to the old ways, who saw her as a threat rather than a colleague. They questioned her every decision, undermining her at every turn. One of the senior engineers, a man named Richard, had never fully accepted her rise. He had always felt that he deserved the recognition Lily had received, and he was growing more and more frustrated with her influence within the company. "She's not qualified to make these decisions," Richard would mutter under his breath during meetings. "She's just a child who got lucky." Lily had heard the whispers, and while they stung, she didn't let them affect her. She had faced worse before. Her entire journey had been about proving that she belonged. Still, the tension in the office was palpable. One afternoon, as the team worked on a critical project, Richard took it upon himself to challenge Lily's ideas in front of the entire group. "I don't think this will work," he said, crossing his arms. "The calculations are flawed." Lily took a deep breath. She had faced people like Richard before, people who tried to undermine her with doubt and criticism. But she wasn't going to let him get away with it. "I've reviewed the numbers," she said calmly, locking eyes with him. "The calculations are sound. But if you have a better solution, I'm open to hearing it." Richard hesitated. He had no solution. He was simply trying to prove a point, to discredit her in front of the team. The room grew quiet, all eyes on the two of them. "This project is important," Lily continued, her voice firm but respectful. "And we're all here to make it succeed. If you want to challenge my ideas, then we can do that. But I expect it to be constructive, not a personal attack." Richard's face flushed, and for a moment, he said nothing. He knew he had been out of line. The rest of the team stood in silent support, and Richard realized that the room was no longer his to control. For the first time, he saw Lily not as the maid's daughter who had somehow gotten lucky, but as the leader she had become. From that day forward, Richard backed off. He no longer undermined Lily in meetings, and though he never fully embraced the changes she had made, he learned to respect her. Lily had proven herself again, not through her work, but through her strength and conviction. As the weeks passed, Thorne Industries continued to thrive. The company had never been more innovative, more inclusive, or more successful. And at the heart of it all was Lily, once dismissed, once underestimated, now leading the charge toward a future built on equal opportunity, fresh ideas, and the unwavering belief that anyone could make a difference. Lily stood at the window of her office, looking out at the city below. The skyline had changed over the years, just like Thorne Industries, and just like her. She had come so far from the young girl who had cleaned the floors and been ignored, to the leader of one of the most innovative companies in the world. It was a journey that had been full of challenges, setbacks, and moments of self-doubt, but also moments of triumph. The energy system project that had started it all had turned into a massive success, and now, Thorne Industries was a global leader in sustainable energy, with plans to expand into new markets. And Lily, once dismissed as a maid's daughter, was now at the forefront of this revolution. Harrison Thorne, who had once been skeptical of her abilities, had become one of her most trusted allies. Together, they had transformed the company, but more importantly, they had changed the way people thought about innovation, opportunity, and respect. Lily had shown the world that talent could come from anywhere, and that the greatest breakthroughs often came from the most unexpected places. As she looked out over the city, Lily felt a sense of peace she hadn't known before. She had proven herself, not just to others, but to herself. She had shown that no matter where you came from or what people thought of you, you could make a difference. Her success had never been about the recognition or the titles. It had always been about the work, the process, and the impact. She had changed the course of Thorne Industries, but more importantly, she had changed the lives of the people around her. The engineers who had once doubted her now sought her out for advice, and the young innovators who had joined the company in the wake of her success looked to her as a role model. Lily had become a symbol of possibility, of what could happen when you dared to believe in yourself, no matter the odds. And yet, even with all her accomplishments, she knew this was just the beginning. There was still so much to do, so many challenges left to tackle. The world was constantly changing, and innovation never stopped. Lily was determined to continue leading the way, to continue making a difference, and to continue proving that anyone, no matter their background, could change the world. As she turned away from the window, her phone buzzed with a message from Harrison. "I'm proud of you, Lily. You've built something incredible here. But I know you're not done yet. The world needs more of what you have to offer." Lily smiled at the message, a small smile that reflected the quiet confidence she had gained over the years. She wasn't done yet. She had a lot more to give, and she was just getting started. The future was hers to shape, and nothing could stand in her way. In this inspiring tale of success, we delve into the world of one young woman who defied the odds and transformed her life from a maid's daughter to a leader in a major tech company. Her journey, filled with perseverance and innovation, echoes the power of hard work and the importance of believing in oneself, no matter your background. This millionaire story showcases how Lily, initially dismissed by many, rose to the top, proving that true talent and vision often come from the most unexpected places. Throughout her career, she tackled numerous challenges and overcame doubts from even the most powerful people in the industry, showing that anyone, regardless of their start in life, can achieve greatness. This is one of the many millionaire stories that inspire others to believe in their potential and strive for success. Her remarkable transformation not only changed the course of her company, but also reshaped how people viewed innovation and leadership. As we explore Lily's story, it's clear that her success is a testament to the idea that millionaire stories aren't just about wealth. They are about making an impact, challenging expectations, and changing lives. Lily's journey proves that no matter where you come from, if you have the right mindset and work relentlessly toward your goals, you can create your own millionaire story. With her courage, determination, and ability to see solutions where others saw problems, Lily set a new standard for what it means to be a leader in today's fast-paced world. This millionaire story is not just about wealth, but about the courage to rise above adversity and make a difference, inspiring countless others to do the same.